Hello, Cheapario here, and today we're doing a quick look at these figures. These are the World of Nintendo 2023 wave of figures. We've got Samus Aran from Metroid here on the left, and we have also got Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Link in terms of this iteration of Link here on the right. Now, in terms of what I was going to do with these figures, I was planning to open them. However, I have had bad experiences because of the accessories that they come with are not really for the sake of being presented in a way that they won't get lost or they'll roll off. And I'll speak about that in a minute when we're looking at these figures. Another big consideration that gets me is how you're going to display these figures. If you're going to open them, and you still plan to display them as opposed to throwing them in a bin somewhere, if you're going to actually display them, these boxes are really nice. And while this may not have the nostalgia, so to speak, this one does. Almost looking at this box for Metroid, it looks like, kind of gives those vibes of Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. I know that that was more of a bluish type box, but it looks very much like, to me, the Metroid 2 on Game Boy box and brings back a lot of memories. Another thing to think about is if you're displaying these figures, while I understand if you're playing Super Smash Brothers, the characters are sometimes going to be a little bit disproportionate, but it's even more so with these World of Nintendo figures, where Mario is substantially more bulkier in size than Samus and even Link. And then the Star Fox figures are small in stature than some of the other figures. Um, so let's take a look at the boxes. Let's take the figures in the boxes themselves and kind of talk about the nostalgia that it brings for me. So seeing these World of Nintendo figures, especially if they're coming out beside the Super Mario figures, is that if for those that remember a show back in the 80s called, I believe it was called Captain N, and he would get sucked into this video game world and he had to take on Mother Brain was the main villain from Metroid, even though Samus, I don't believe, was in the cartoon. She was in the comics of Captain N. But in that world, he keeps on jumping from portal to portal, and he would encounter Link. He would encounter Donkey Kong in one episode. Recurring characters were Mega Man. There is Kid Icarus. Mostly Nintendo characters. Even Game Boy was this artificial sentient being that would be a recurring character on the show. And they used to do this like Power Hour where it was Super Mario Brothers, the cartoon, which focused on Super Mario Brothers 3, and then the half an hour afterward, it would be this Captain N and him jumping from world to world and encountering these video game characters. And I'd watched the show somewhat, and I don't think there's necessarily toys of Captain N, but there was comic books, and I had the comic books. And in the comic books, Samus, without her actual helmet, would be in those comic books and was a major character. So seeing these characters side by side really remembers me of Captain N from those glory days of animation with those Nintendo characters. But getting back to the figures themselves as to why I'm going to keep these in the box. Again, I like the nostalgia of this figure. Another big issue, Samus Aran's Morph Ball. How are you going to display that unless you've got some type of special stand? And if you can see a closer look at the figure, unless you've got a special stand for that, that thing's just going to roll off. So, I mean, to kind of have it displayed in this kind of hovering plastic is probably going to be the choice for me. In terms of the box itself, especially if you take a look at the back, you see Samus a little bit back there in her glory. You can't see her actual face or visor. You can't see her face through the visor, but still a great figure nonetheless. I don't think, in terms of researching this, I don't think you've got a Samus figure that has come out since one of the 2.5-inch more metal-sized figures that came out some years ago. So there's only the 2.5-inch, and that was a very special kind of figure. And you haven't had like an action figure per se in so many years. I thought there may have been some iterations back in the 90s. And truth be told, outside of some of the Zero Suit Samus, there hasn't been much interpretations of this character. So to be like an action figure of Samus Aran is a rarity from my perspective. So I'm going to keep it in its box. I'm not going to open it like I plan to. I'm going to keep it in its box, going to display it with some of my other Nintendo toys, especially since she's probably smaller in stature next to some of the Super Mario figures. Next, we've got the Breath of the Wild Link. And believe it or not, I have not played Breath of the Wild for more than a few minutes. I know I need to delve into it and really deep down get into what is probably one of the best Zelda games of all time. It looks beautiful, looks great, it plays great on Nintendo. One of the best adventure games. Even from the few minutes that I played it, it just took my breath away. But the figure version, you've got a couple of links over the years. Um, some of them are a little bit more higher in price, but they're not going to break your wallet. So you might be able to find Link figures for probably around 40 bucks boxed in terms of some of his older iterations like the N64 days. But the Breath of the Wild figure is a good addition if you like Link. And while this is more the look of what he'd have in some of the posters and promotional images for the game, it's not actually, to my knowledge, this isn't actually the cover of Breath of the Wild. Um, and then you get his action pose on the back. So there you go. I believe this is once again not a. I haven't played the Breath of the Wild, and in terms of my knowledge of Zelda, which is for a Nintendo fan, that's probably that's a non-starter. You got to be playing Zelda games. Um, sorry, almost dropped her there. I don't believe this is the Master Sword that you collect over the course of the game. This is probably one of the starter swords that you get that you're stuck with. It doesn't look like much of a fancy sword that he'd be carrying around with him, but great looking figure. All these Jack specific World Nintendo figures, for the most part, look great. Just kind of iffy about some of the proportions of the characters. I wish they did them a little bit more side by side, that Samus would still be bigger than Mario and bigger, of course, than Link. But when you're seeing them side by side, they're almost the same in size. And again, doubling back, if we're looking at playing Super Smash Brothers, you do get some of those disproportions when you're playing in those games. So I guess it's possibly more true to that than I would have in my mind. But great looking figures, not necessarily for Link, but definitely I'm going to keep Metroid. I'm going to keep this Metroid figure, the Samus Aran figure, in the box because I'm going to lose that Morph Ball. Just another story to give you guys. I did have the Star Fox figures from World of Nintendo by Jack Specific, and those come with the actual power-ups that you'd get for your ship when you're flying around in Star Fox. And those things, I lost them pretty quickly. I don't want to lose the Morph Ball because it's kind of so critical to the action features of the character. So I'm going to keep it in its box. This one, maybe down the line I might open it. We'll see how it goes, be able to see Link next to Mario. But for the sake of this video, just going to see it in its box in its glory and keep it that way for now. So definitely, guys, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you want me to do some more World of Nintendo figures, let me know. Definitely go out, look for these in the wild. But these are great pickups. The prices, looking at under $10 to be able to get these figures. So definitely worth it. All right, guys. Well, I will see you guys next time. Bye.